Monica Harding.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I rise in support of New Clause 1, the Passengers Charter, and New Clause 3, tabled by my honourable friend, the member for Didcot and Wantage, and my own new Clause 60, which addresses issues of reliability, accessibility and refurbishment. All 7 of my railway stations in Esher and Walton are under the stewardship of South Western Railway, making our constituency one of the first to experience the transition to public ownership. And there are significant reliability challenges. The latest performance figures show that in March, 3% of all services were cancelled and only 65% of services arrived on time, meaning more than 1 in 3 trains failed to arrive when passengers expected them to.
On that point, will you...
I will give way.
Thank you. I thank my honourable friend for giving way. Just on South West Rail, I've got statistics here for Worcester Park station, which is also served by South West Rail, and in the very last period before nationalisation, which was period 2, 25-26, the figures for punctuality was 89.3%, which is still not good enough, and 1% cancellations. In all the periods since then, the performance has been worse. Under nationalisation, every single period, Worcester Park has seen a worse service. So does she agree with me, that my honourable friend agree with me, that our residents, particularly those of Worcester Park, don't care if a train turns up wrapped in a Union flag. They care about whether that train is on time and whether it's not cancelled.
They 100% do care, and that is why we should support New Clause 1. But it would also help if constituents could access the railway in the first place. Investment in making our stations accessible for all needs to be at the very heart of the programme of rail reform. Hersham and Hinchley Wood stations are 2 stations in my constituents that are completely without any step-free access, while Walton, Claygate, Esher and Thames Ditton only have partial step-free access, and that is why I have tabled New Clause 60, requiring Great British Railways to undertake and publish an assessment of the accessibility barriers at Hersham and Hinchley Wood stations, and I'm pleased to support New Clause 2, which does the same, requiring the Secretary of State to publish an accessibility strategy for the railway network. And that brings me to Hersham Station, because the accessibility failures there sit alongside something much more fundamental, which New Clause 3 would support. Hersham supports around 700,000 passengers every year on one of the busiest rail corridors in the country, and a constituency that contributes more to the exchequer than any constituency outside of London. Thousands of people pass through that station every week to run businesses, create jobs and drive economic growth, and that state of that station is an affront to every single one of them. It is an eyesore, ramshackle, neglected, mould climbs the fence lines, the paintwork is peeling. The station sits under exposed corrugated iron roofing. More seriously, both platforms were built in the 1960s using materials that were only ever intended to be temporary, and more than half a century later, they are still there. Groups of school children step off the train and put their foot through the platform. Constituents have repeatedly raised safety concerns. The stairs visibly move beneath their feet. And these passengers are not asking for luxury. They are asking for a station that is safe. And there is nothing in this bill that will give my residents in Hersham a station that they can be proud of. I therefore urge the Minister to look seriously at New Clause 3, tabled by my honourable friend, which would establish a Tomorrow's Railway Fund, enabling local authorities to bid for funding for new stations, infrastructure and feasibility studies. This is exactly the kind of mechanism that stations and wealth creators in Hersham need. Madam Deputy Speaker, all my constituents are asking for trains that run on time, stations that they can actually get into, and infrastructure that is safe to use. Performance, accessibility, condition are not separate issues. They are 3 sides of the same failure, and this bill must address all 3. I urge the Minister to accept these amendments and to show that Great British Railways will finally deliver a railway worthy of the people who depend on it every day.